Hi everybody, welcome to my complete beginner's quick start guide to Warzone and how to survive and win in the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare Battle Royale mode. So, first things first, Warzone, whether it be the free-to-play version or if you've got it as part of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, consists of two game modes, Battle Royale and Plunder. Now this video is primarily going to be about Battle Royale, but you should definitely check out Plunder as well, because, as I explain later, it's a great way to level up your guns and become familiar with the map. In Plunder, the idea is not to be the last alive, but rather to be the first squad or individual to get $1 million. It's an awful lot of fun, and it's not quite as stressful as Battle Royale. But this video is really about Battle Royale. Also, in this video, you'll see me playing squads, but all the concepts I discuss, the tactics and strategies, they apply just as much to duos and to solos when they become available. Now, as I said, we've got a lot of info to cover, and so what I'll do is I'll put timestamps in the YouTube on the description down below. So if you're watching this somewhere apart from YouTube, you've got to go to YouTube, press the YouTube link and get there, and then it'll be in the description. Sometimes you've got to click the more button to open up the description so that you can see the timestamps. Now, here we go. So make sure you do the practice modes. These are really important. The Warzone orientation is important not only for brand new players to Call of Duty and Warzone, but even if you're an experienced Call of Duty player, an experienced Modern Warfare 2019 player, you need to know the differences that happen in Warzone, the ability to tag things and things like the buy stations and reviving and stuff like that. So make sure you take a look at that. Battle Royale practice. Now, Battle Royale practice is so helpful. What it does, it allows you to drop in a simulation of a near end game experience. So you're gonna drop in a circle that's fairly small, so it's like near the end, and you're gonna come up against bots, and you can play all the way through to winning against some fairly easy bots. But again, it'll get you used to some of the weapons. It gets you used to moving around. Gets you used to the idea of the circles coming in and the gas. So please check it out. In fact, I would always say you should use the practice mode as a warm-up before you go into the main games. But maybe I need to take a little step backwards and explain a little bit about what is Battle Royale. So Battle Royale, the idea is that we're going to jump into this massive map as solo or duo and then become available, or as a squad, 3-man squads as it is at the moment. And the idea is that the win state, the winners, is the squad that has someone alive last right at the end. So at the moment it's 150 players. When it gets down to the last one, or maybe it's all three of you who survive, or just two, that's it, you're the winners. And then a helicopter comes, you jump into a helicopter, you go, and you get loads of XP, and you've got a Warzone victory under your belt. And it's very, very cool. Very, very nerve-wracking, adrenaline fueled when you get to the end, and Battle Royales are unlike any other type of game mode really that we have in video gaming. Now, however, as beginners, what I want you to think about is that your goal isn't really to win, right? Your goal as an individual or as a squad is to get to the final 10 teams in squads, or when we have solos, get to the final 10 individuals, okay? So a top 10 position is our own private victory, and I'll explain why at the end of the video. So let's get started. So I want to go into the settings first. So let's have a look at the settings. Now, I'm on a PlayStation, but this applies just as much to Xbox as well. Sensitivity. I have mine fairly low, down at 3, because I'm an old geezer who finds it difficult to lock onto targets. If you find you're in a situation where as you're running around you keep moving past targets when you're aiming down sights and have to swing back to lock on them, consider moving your sensitivity down. If you're happy with that, obviously the higher your sensitivity, if you can keep on target and keep your accuracy, the better, because you can react quicker to people dropping behind you, shooting at you, that sort of stuff. But if you're going to be changing your sensitivity, which is how fast the screen moves when you move the 6 on your controllers, just do it a little bit at a time. So ADS sensitivity multiplier I keep at 1, high zoom 1, aim response curve type linear. I find this is similar to lots of other games, which means that as I move my sticks further across my controller, movement doesn't start to accelerate away from me. Disable controller vibration. Aim assist is standard. We've done lots of testing on this, and this seems to be the best option. Weapon mount, ADS and melee. Weapon mount movement enabled. Aim down sight behavior, just hold the left trigger. Equipment behavior, hold. Use reload behavior, tap to reload. Depleted ammo weapon switch, so it means if a gun runs out of ammo, automatically switches to the next one. Slide hold, auto move forward disabled, automatic sprint disabled, vehicle camera recenter enabled. Let's move on. General, let's get to the top. Brightness I have at 53%. I know they say that the middle box that you see on the right with the MW and it should be barely visible. Don't turn it up a little bit. This really depends on your TV, but you want to be able to see a little bit into those shadows so you can see those campers hiding away. Film grain, turn it off. You want the clearest screen possible. It looks better with film grain, but you want it off. Tooltips. This is a good idea to have these enabled so the game tells you what to do as you're learning the new mechanics behind Warzone. Subtitle disabled, don't want to read them. Language selects English. Colorblind type disabled. World motion blur. Again, looks better with it on. Turn it off for Warzone. We want every advantage that we can get. Weapon motion blur, turn it off. Minimap, I use round. Rotation is enabled. There is an argument that you could go to fixed with this. The reason why you would go to fixed is, especially in squads, it enables you to call out the cardinal directions, so north, south, east and west, a lot easier, because you can just look at your mini-map and west is west. However, if your map's spinning around, west isn't west, and you've got to look at your compass at the top instead. That's all normal stuff. You can ignore all that. Right, audio, very, very, very important. Now, you should be playing this game with headphones on, turned up loud, and you should go into the settings on your relative console, whether that be the PlayStation or the Xbox, and you should be turning down the chat so you can just about hear your mates talking, and turning up the game, because hearing people, hearing their positions is critical all the way through the game, especially in the final circle. So audio makes boost high. Again, we've done testing, lots of other YouTubers probably agree with this. This seems to be the best setting to increase the sounds of footsteps. Master volume 100, music volume 30. Again, turn these down. Dialogue volume, in fact that could probably go down to 30 as well. Effects I'll leave it at 100. Juggernaut music enabled. Hit markers, Modern Warfare. Voice chat enabled. I have this enabled for Battle Royale because the squad that talks to each other will win together. But you might want to turn it off if you don't listen to what people are saying. And then we've got various stuff down there. Microphone volume, don't need to worry about that. So they're the settings that I use to be successful. Now, let's talk about weapons. And you may say, well, what do you mean weapons, Rob? This is Battle Royale. Surely you just pick up the weapons that you find. That is true, you do to start off with, but one of the amazing things about Warzone is that you can call in these special supply drops that you will find, that you can purchase at a buy station, and once you buy one of these you can call in a drop which includes your multiplayer loadouts. So this is amazing, and it also includes, now this is the really special part, includes the perks as well. So let's go through some of these setups that you may well want to set up for Warzone. Now, I do have to say that some of these guns, and especially the attachments on these guns, you will not have unlocked straight away. Excuse me. You will need to play with these guns and kill people with these guns in order to unlock them, because the way that leveling works in Call of Duty and Modern Warfare is that as you play more, your character unlocks more weapons, and as you use a weapon more, it unlocks more attachments. So they may not all be available, but I'm going to talk about how you can do that more effectively. So let's just go through some loadouts here. So the first loadout is the M4 and the HDR sniper rifle. Okay, so the M4 is probably one of the most powerful guns in Modern Warfare multiplayer, and it's still pretty tasty in Warzone. The differences that I do for Warzone is I add a 60 round mag, so I've got the extended mags on it. I add the monolithic suppressor to get rid of sound and to increase damage, and I put a reflex sight on it compared to what I normally do. I would normally have a different sight when I'm playing multiplayer. And then we put the stippled grip on it for faster ADS and faster sprint out time, and I put the Merc 4 grip on it to control recoil. The M4 is relatively easy to control. In Warzone, if someone has full armor, they're going to have 250 health, so you're putting a lot of bullets in them. That's why you need the 60 round mags to be able to engage more than one target at a time. And the M4 allowed you to stay on target, you know, when you're in that fully auto fire and take them out that way. It's a good beginner's gun. It's a good advanced gun as well. There are better guns for Warzone, but it's a good place to start. Now my secondary is the HDR sniper rifle. Now the HDR is very special because in Warzone, well, and in the multiplayer as well, it's well, in the Warzone specifically, it's still a one-shot kill to the head, even if your enemy has full armor and full health. It will kill them. So that's a very powerful tool. Very, very, very powerful indeed. The disadvantage is that it's very slow to reload. So it's bang, reload, 3 seconds later you can fire again. So you have to hit those headshots. If you miss the headshots, it will damage their armor. But that slow reload speed means you're at a disadvantage. One of the things I do though, and maybe you can try this as well, is I take off the sniper scope, because normally the HDR would kind of look like that with that sniper scope, which is, you know, really magnified. I know it's probably like 6 times magnification, and I put on the Cronin 3.5 times optic. Now the reason why I do that is because the sniper scopes, the ones with big magnification, have glint on them. So when you're looking at someone, if they look back at you and you're aiming them, they will see the glint and know straight away you're aiming at them. This obviously tells them to move, but also gives away your position if you're just scanning the environment for enemies. With something like the 3.5 times, I still get fairly decent magnification, and I don't get that scope glint. So when I'm hiding in a bush waiting for the circle to move, which is what we're going to be doing a lot, is I can just scan the environment without worrying about giving my position away. Put the bipod on it. Perk is focus, that's so that you can hold your breath for longer, and we've got the suppressor on there for increased damage, increased range, and obviously to stop giving away our position. Perks, EOD, we need to have overkill so we can have 2 primaries, and battle hardened to prevent us being affected by stuns too much. Lethal Semtex grenade, I like it because it sticks on surfaces. And then the tactical is the heartbeat sensor. Now the heartbeat sensor is really cool. You press and hold your left shoulder button on console and it sends out a pulse. So if someone's close to you, you'll see their dot on the heartbeat sensor. You can use it again and again and again. Very useful in Warzone when you're approaching a building and you're deciding whether you should go into that building or not. Equip your heartbeat sensor. You'll know straight away whether there's someone in that building. Very, very useful indeed. I'm using it an awful lot. Next loadout, the AUG and the HDR. Now, the AUG is a submachine gun, but when you level it up, you can put on the 5.56 ammunition, and you can put a 60 round drum on it. And lots of YouTubers have tested this, and they said that the AUG with this on there is very, very powerful, and probably one of the best guns for Warzone. And then what I do is I put a Merc grip on it to control recoil, stipple grip to give that fast aim down sight speed, forge tack stock again to whip up that aim down sight speed, and then I put the suppressor on it to increase damage output and to hold on to the to keep it quiet. The catch is though we're using iron sights, which take a bit of getting used to. So it's a little bit more of a hardcore output, and we've got the HDR. Now, here's a loadout you might want to try, the AUG, or you could use the M4, but our secondary is an RPG rocket launcher. Now, what we're sacrificing in this loadout is obviously a sniper rifle. What we're gaining is the ability to take out targets when they go behind cover. So imagine in a situation you're in the final circles, or anywhere really, and you see a guy, you shoot at him, and he jumps inside a building. He's behind cover, you can't get him, you could throw a grenade in. However, with the RPG, all you do is you swap to the RPG, fire it through the window, bang, and you're probably going to kill him, and maybe some of his teammates as well. You can fire it again. If somebody goes behind a building and there's a wall there, fire it into the wall and the splash damage will take them out. Fairly slow rockets, but loads of damage. And so the perks we're going with this are EOD. We can have Ghost, so we won't appear on UAVs, and we can use Amped. Amped means that I can swap to the RPG faster, and I can reload the rockets faster. So an interesting thing to try out. Probably best when you're playing squads where everybody else has got maybe got sniper rifles and you've got the RPG. You're the heavy assault person who can go in and do that. You may want to try this. The FAL is good as a primary weapon, and here I've got it set up as my secondary with the AUG. It's a semi-automatic rifle that has high damage, and I put 3.5 times on it. Then we're going slightly more aggressive with this setup. So we've got the AUG as normal, but on the HDR I've put the thermal dual power scope on it. This gives me 5 times or 12.1 times magnification. Great for popping headshots. Disadvantage: people can see the scope glint on it. But it's for that more aggressive, I'm going after kills kind of setup. And then we've got the same setup but with an M4 instead. And then this is an interesting. This is basically the gun that I use in multiplayer. Virtually, this is the M4. And all I've done is I've just added the 60 round mag to it, the extended mag, and taken away the fast hands perk, because with 60 rounds, you know, if you don't kill everybody with those 60 rounds, you're not going to be able to reload anyway. Taken away the laser and added the Forge Attack quick aim down sight scope to allow for the heaviness of the 60 round mags. And then I've got the pillar launcher, which I use in multiplayer all the time, as my secondary. This is so that I can go into Warzone with basically my setup that I have for multiplayer. So I'm very familiar with this gun, with the addition of the heartbeat sensor. Haven't really used it that much, but it's just there. And then the final two class setups are, these are the setups I use in ordinary multiplayer a lot. So we've got my normal M4 with my Cronin sight on it, with Semtex and smoke grenade, EOD, Ghost and battle hardened. And then when I'm playing domination or hardline, sometimes I like to use smokes combined with a thermal sight. You know, you smoke at objective, you can still see through the smoke, the enemies can't, you can kill them. And then I go with my proximity mines to defend hard points primarily. And then I use restock, so I get more mines and more smokes, and shrapnel, so I start off with 2 mines. So there we go. Those are my setups for custom loadouts. As I said before though, the problem is you have to unlock a lot of these attachments, and maybe some of these guns as well, and you might have access to them. So what you can do is, if you play Plunder, you spawn in with one of your custom loadouts, and simply by using that gun you will then level it up. However, if you go the full hog and you buy the full version of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, you can play all the other game modes: Team Deathmatch, Domination, Free For All, Hardpoint, loads of stuff, which will allow you to quickly level up these guns to unlock those attachments, especially if you do something like the Shipment and Shoot House playlist when they're available, because you can get 40 kills in one game and level up guns really quickly. So you can do that. You can play ground war, so you can practice with your sniper rifles on really big maps, 32 versus 32 respawn, and you can even go into the gunfight and play 2v2s, 1v1s are sometimes available, 3v3s, but gunfight is really good for practicing for when you die and go to the Gulag. More about that in a minute as well. And another really good thing you can do is that if you buy the full version of COD Modern Warfare 2019, you can set up private matches where you can practice with your loadout and try new ones. So let me show you quickly how to do that. So if you go into private match and go into local game, you can create a local game, and you go to game setup and choose a map like Euphrates Bridge, like so, and change the mode to free-for-all. Bots, you could have 11 bots, make them dummies so they're just running around as mobile targets for you, and then go into the game setup, go into the game rules, and what you want to do is you want to change max health to 250, so that's like everybody's wearing armor, and you want to go down to spawn ammo mags and put that up to max so you don't have to worry about ammo. And then you can play a game and literally be simulating running around and shooting people in the Battle Royale in Warzone. Obviously these are just simple targets, but it allows you to become familiar with your guns, your gun setups, and it allows you to practice out different variations as well on your particular gun. So it's very, very powerful indeed. Okay, so that's the first bit of this video. Next up, we're going to talk about actually getting into a game. So, we're in the plane, ready to go. Where should we drop? Well, quite simply, you want to get as far away from the plane flight path as you can towards a group of buildings. And if it's a centre type of flight path, you really want to try and get away from named areas too. Now, don't worry about trying to land inside the circle, because you'll probably be able to find a vehicle and you can outrun the gas on foot anyway. So it's simply not necessary to always land inside the circle. In fact, it's preferable to land outside of the circle because less people will be doing that. If you're the squad leader, mark a position on the map and jump a few seconds before you're parallel with the marker, so you fly diagonally towards it. To fly further by parachute, keep cutting and popping your chute. And remember, if you hold the left shoulder button on console, you can have a look round while your chute is popped to see if anybody's following you in. If you don't quite make it, get a vehicle, drop down, jump into it and make your way to the drop marker. So our aim now should be to loot up safely, grabbing weapons, ammo, cash, armor plates, throwables and field upgrades. Look for the higher class of weapons. The standard ones are kind of white or greyish, but if possible pick up the ones that have the different colours around them. There's green, which is uncommon, blue, which is rare, purple, which is epic, and orange, which is legendary. And basically, you know, the better the weapon, the more attachments it has on it. In fact, you may well find that you find a purple weapon with a nice scope on it, but then you don't really want another one because you'll want a simple weapon with just iron sights so you can aim down sight nice and quick. Now, as you're running around, cash, ammo and armour, they automatically get picked up, but you do have to press the interaction button to pick up weapons and throwables, field upgrades and streaks as well. Listen for the hum of the crates and then hunt them down. Try and keep close to your squad mates and listen out for enemy footsteps. If you found those little contract tablets, the kind of yellowish ones, the container hunt ones are the easiest, where you run around just picking containers up. But there's also the domination recon ones, which again is fairly easy because you just go to a point and hold it for a while and get some cash as well. But don't try and do the contracts that involve attacking and taking out an enemy individual and an enemy team, unless you're feeling really confident. Now, later on in the game, it's always a good idea to pick them up. The reason being is that even if somebody else kills that person and it wasn't you, you'll get some money for it. You know, so it's kind of money for nothing. Also, when you pick up a contract for killing someone, if you look on the map, you'll see roughly where they are, and it's kind of like a UAV for that team. So if they start moving close into you, you'll be able to see that. Now, as you loot up, eventually you'll gather enough cash for a loadout drop marker, which you'll find in a buy station. And there on the map, I think it's the little shopping trolley, and it costs $6,000 at the moment. And this is the drop that enables you to equip your custom loadouts. Very, very powerful indeed. Now, as you get more cash, you'll want to consider buying a UAV, which is so overpowered in the final circles it's not true. An armor bundle if you need it, a munitions box if you're running low on ammo. You can buy a self-revive kit and a gas mask if you haven't got one already. So As you can see, cash really is king in Warzone, because not only can you get all this stuff, but if one of your teammates dies and they don't win the Gulag fight, then you can buy them back at the buy station. Now, you're not going to buy everything straight away, you know, at the first buy station you're not going to have enough money, but as you progress through the game, keep an eye on where the buy stations are, and you may well want to travel via them to pick some more gear up. Bear in mind that they are often camped by enemy teams as well, because they know people are going to be running towards them. Also, if you press down on your D-pad, you can drop things and give them to your teammates, and cash is a good one, where maybe as a squad individually you haven't got enough to buy something like a UAV or a custom supply drop, but if you know, if two of you drop your money, it means a third person can pick that up and then buy that particular item. This is probably a good time to talk about winning Gulag game fights. As soon as you spawn into the Gulag, you know, check your loadout so you know what weapon and throwables you've got, and I find the best tactic is to push quickly, normally to the right hand side of the map in the middle, and then just listen out and look for the enemy. Throw your lethal and your tactical, and usually you'll then see the other person. It'll finish before the overtime. You can move towards the flag so that you can capture it and then win. But again, don't worry too much if you die. You know, just wait for your teammates to buy you back in and the parachute down onto their position. Or sometimes you'll find a custom supply drop near them, and that's the perfect thing to parachute down onto, because immediately you've got your loadout that you can use and get back into the fight. If you find yourself in a position at any point during the game where you haven't got much cash and you've got poor weapons, those custom loadout supply drops are dropped in by the game. It's not really randomly. The thought is they drop them between teams, because there's a lot of mechanics in Warzone that are trying to push teams together to get them to fight, with things like contracts and with things like supply drops. So as long as you can get to one safely, you can be fully kitted up in no time at all. So you and your squad, you're kitted up and you're ready to win. So now we've got to consider circle tactics. As a beginner, you want to avoid too many gunfights, so a good option is to play the edge of the circle. This means always moving to just inside the area, inside the new circle, and preferably taking position inside a building or other covered area where you can wait for the next circle and you won't be seen, and you can stay quiet and you can listen and look out for approaching enemies and ambush them as they come in. When the next circle appears, you move to the edge of the next one and you carry on like that. If you've got a large area of open ground to cover, consider using a vehicle. Only fire on enemies if you've got a definite chance of killing them, or if they're a direct threat, because if you're just taking pot shots at enemies in the distance, all you're really doing is giving away your position and wasting ammunition. Occasionally you'll want to consider a complete map reposition, and this is where you turn what could be referred to as a bad circle position into a good one. So a bad circle position would be one where you're forced to move through heavily contested areas of the map where there's going to be lots of people to get to where you want to go. So instead of doing that, what you do is often you'll get into a vehicle, helicopters are really cool for this, and just fly to the opposite side of the circle, which hopefully will be along the edge of the map, whether that be the sea or the sides of the map or the top of the map, because generally as people parachute into those areas, they then move towards the centre of the circle. They're moving to find new loot. If you're already looted up, there's nothing wrong with you going to this sort of place, plonking yourself down and waiting there. And if you're lucky and you get the circle to come to you, it means that everybody else has to fight each other and you can just stay in one position. Now, this is quite a passive tactic, and some people would probably call it a bit boring as well, but it can be very, very effective for winning Warzone victories. And the third circle tactic you may want to consider, because sometimes you're forced into it, is a dash to the middle. And this normally happens in the mid to late game, where you'll find yourself on the edge of the circle and the circle will shift and you have to cover a lot of open ground, and there's probably a lot of gunfire going on at the same time. And you think, well, there's no point us trying to run across this field past the stadium, because we're just going to get ripped to pieces. So instead, what you do is you jump into a vehicle and you hammer it across, and then you just get one of your teammates to put a marker in the centre of the on the map where there's a building, centre of the circle. You go there, you jump out, you defend that position, and you go on from there, waiting for the circle to come in and then working the edge from that point in. So you and your squad, you're approaching the final circles. You know, you want to be at full armour, so remember to keep popping that in. And you want to have as many in reserve as possible. You want to have your throwables ready and your tactical. If you've got a field upgrade, you know, something like stopping power for extra strength bullets, or dead silence for quiet footsteps, or even a trophy system to defend against grenades, you're going to be using them right up at the last minute, along with UAVs, or perhaps a cluster strike or an airstrike from your squad mates. The key tactic here is to move quietly so you know where the enemies are, and try and stay behind cover right on the edge of the circle. Remember, if you've got a gas mask, it'll protect you for a short time if the gas overtakes you, or you've got to run into it for a few seconds. If you get hit, get behind cover and replace your armour. Keep an eye on the number of people left and the number of teams. If you've got a full squad and the game tells you there's 5 people left but only 3 teams, you know it's a 3v1v1. If there's a few people but lots of teams, the enemies will be spread out. If there's only a few teams, they'll probably be grouped together. Try and let those other squads and players kill each other. So this is why, say someone shoots you from a medium range across one of the smaller final circles, you're better off going behind cover and not shooting back, because they've given away their position, and any enemies around them will then be turning to them and engaging them, rather than you trying to shoot at them and not being able to finish them off, but you've then given away your position. In the final circle, the gas completely envelops the map, completely disappears. So this is the time where, if you've still got it left, pop that UAV so you know exactly where the other players are. Pop that dead silence so you've got quiet footsteps, or pop that stopping power so you get those extra strength bullets in your gun. You'll be forced towards the centre, but again, use cover to stay near the edge. Think where players could be hiding, listen for coughs, and stay cool. And always remember, the best players in Call of Duty and Warzone, you don't worry about dying. Each match is a learning experience, and if you follow the simple tactics of stealthily playing the edge of the circle, you will eventually get a lucky circle with the right squad and with the right enemies, and you will win. If you do the math, and trust me, I did a lot of this with PUBG, if you can get yourself to the last 10 teams and you've got a full squad, or the last 10 players when solos arrive, and you can do that 7 times, your chance of having won one of the games jumps to over 50%. It goes odds on. So just follow these tactics, and I guarantee that eventually you'll get a Warzone victory and have a lot of fun doing it, no matter what your skill level is. Okay, so hopefully this video has been useful. If you've got any other questions or comments, put them in the comments section down below. If you've enjoyed the video, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. Thank you very much, and I will see you again soon.